Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the third film in the DreamWorks franchise of Shrek, just simply titled Shrek the Third,
Yes.
which is sort of considered the least liked of the quadrilogy.
But I love them.
Yeah. Alright.
But this takes place after King Harold passes.
Yes.
And Shrek's reluctantly designated as the heir to the far away kingdom. And since he doesn't want the throne, he goes on a quest to find the true heir, Artie Pendragon, not Artemis Fowl.
No! Gosh!
Plus, in the shadows, Prince Charming is planning a revolt with the other fairy tale characters to take over the night.
Again. So, prepare for trouble! And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification updates on future podcasts, and we'll pause videos.
Definitely. And I personally don't understand the hate. It's like, I love the entire series. I think each movie was its own movie, and each movie was fantastic and great, and did character building and world building and everything perfectly for each stage it was at. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I think in one aspect, the only thing I can see for people not liking, I don't know about everything else, is that they felt a whole so different from the first and second one. Remember, the second one was phenomenal. People loved it. They couldn't believe that the sequel almost outdid the first one because it was so well done. Then they got to the third one, and they seemed to had toned down the fairy tale parody aspect of it. It was more focused on the King Arthur mythology and turning the Knights of the Round Table and stuff into a high school. And Merlin was a kooky wizard. Artie was a kid that got bullied a lot.
Yep, voiced by Justin Timberlake.
Of all people, yeah. So I think for a lot of people, the crazy take on fairy tale characters was missing and replaced with a high school modernization on King Arthur, which felt really different from Shrek's formula.
But it was still fairy tale because although there has been evidence that King Arthur actually existed, the majority of people believe it to be a fairy tale.
Right.
So in their minds, they still were on it. And I think also because, as you mentioned, the king died.
Yes.
And so it took on a more, I won't say somber because it wasn't somber, but a more serious tone in terms of finding someone to replace the ruler.
Yeah.
They didn't go on like it never happened. They didn't go on and say, okay, we're just going to put this person in charge and move on. They decided to make a movie about the process. What happens when, you know, someone who they really don't want to be ruler is going to end up being ruler, and that person doesn't want to be the ruler. What do you do when it takes place in fairy tale land?
Right.
And I think that is what the movie was supposed to be.
Yeah. And then the other side story with Prince Charming trying to take over Far, Far Away was still interesting. Because now, because his fairy godmother, literal mother, was gone after the second movie, and people thought, okay, he's just going to be cast to the wayside. But no, they tried to utilize him in here. And I guess sort of the vengeance approach, where he's taking all the remaining fairy tale villains and have them join together because the villains always lose in the end. Well, if they got a happy ending and took over, which ironically is kind of what they're doing now, but changing all the villains to anti-heroes or saying they're misunderstood and they're all getting happy endings.
So they were way ahead of the time.
Yeah, ironically. And it was kind of funny to see, like, a majority of their stuff was just sort of basic theft, like breaking and entering, looting and things, getting drunk. It was pretty basic until it gets to a point where he wants to kill Shrek. Right. And for that one, I think it really fits for Charming. He wants to do an entire play centered around where he kills Shrek in front of the kingdom and as an audience. Like, well, that fits for Charming. He's full of himself. He's got an ego. He wants an audience when he thinks it's going to be his greatest act.
And
he's
just as warped as his mom in the mind. And again, they were way ahead of time in doing this. Both she and her son were loony. They were crazy. They were maniacal. They were powerful, crazy, had presence and position. And a lot of villains we see in movies are like that now. But at the time this was made, as you mentioned, that wasn't happening. Right. So again, they were way ahead of their time in bringing about something in animation that wasn't happening at all.
Right. And then you have this mini subplot when they go find Merlin. Merlin's a crazy wizard, and of course he's just really kooky. And there's this mini subplot they do that doesn't really amount to much, but to us it was funny. It was when Puss and Donkey actually ended up switching bodies. Then Donkey had to walk on two legs, and then Puss had these urges to go. So it was, to us it was just really funny, even though it was not like anything important. I think they're trying to add some levity because of how serious happened after the king. You got Artie now wanting to take over, Prince Charming's taking over everything. I think they tried to add some type of comedic tone to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think you had to have Merlin if you got Arthur. You got to have Merlin,
right?
And they had to find a way to make him fit without him being overbearing and being the way he normally is when he's usually in any version of that involves King Arthur. He is a powerful wizard, and he's, I don't want to say overbearing. He has a big presence in it.
Yeah.
And he takes over most of the movie. They didn't want that here.
Right.
So they tried to find a way to make him fit in, but it'd be humorous, and he'd be more of a side character and not a main character.
Right. And another aspect they also have, they got quite a few mini plots going on. Another one is that Shrek and Fiona are going to have kids, and Shrek doesn't know if he's ready or not. He's like really nervous about it.
Too late now, dude.
Alright? He's really like terrified of this idea, the whole nightmare fuel scene and everything. It was pretty much a joke. It was like, yeah, he's not ready yet, but like, yeah, like I said, well, he can't really do much now. And that becomes a kid of a character arc for him, is like, what's it gonna be like for him raising kids? What we see with the Christmas one and the fourth one, he's fine, but yeah, it was kind of interesting to see like how he's gonna tackle that, because what kind of foreshadows movie 4 is that you see how he's gone from this ogre who wanted to be left alone in the beginning, and now you get to just about to the fourth movie. Now he's about to be a family man, and it really shows how much all these characters have come since the very first film. And when you have Fiona's part while she's waiting for Shrek, she's with the other princesses you didn't even know existed. Now they're the other fairy tale characters you're waiting for.
Yes.
You have Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Rapunzel. Sleeping Beauty sleeps all the time. She's narcoleptic. Snow White has an attitude. Rapunzel's pretty vain. And it was pretty fun. Oh, and Cinderella was just kind of really ditzy because she's kind of stuck from the main frame of like, if she had no type of brain whatsoever, she just did whatever the story had. And I thought that was actually really funny, especially when they had them teaming up together, and Snow White's she talks to animals like Fluttershy, but then it goes into this metal rock thing where she calls all the animals.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, and I don't know if anyone else thought about this, is when Shrek and Fiona had the children, Fiona was human. And one of the kids didn't come out looking like half either a human or half of an ogre. And I thought it was interesting they chose not to go that route, that they all three look like ogres. I'm like, but she's human. And the curse is what made her change. So why wouldn't there be one of the children that either looks like her as a human or is part human and part ogre? And I thought that was very weird that didn't happen.
Maybe they couldn't find a balance between human and ogre design, because
or just one of them human. Because
that actually would have been funny. Like if you saw them older, and then you got these three kids, you got two ogres and one human. Like, oh no, they're siblings. You're kind of like, what?
Yes. And it was like, for me, in this movie, that was one of the things I would say was a missed opportunity that I wish they had put into here. Yeah. It was like, why would you not do this?
Yeah, that actually would have been funny, because I'm like, yeah, they're siblings and they're fine with the siblings.
You hear the crickets.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, like the siblings they'd be fine with it. It's normal for them. Exactly. Everyone's like, how was this possible? It would have been like something out of a monster. Like, how are you related?
And then none of the fairy tale people treat any of them different. It would be the people that don't know them, but all the fairy tale people are like, oh, that's normal, we know. She's human, he's an ogre, whatever. Right. And all of them will be fine with it. That just would have been wonderful.
Actually, yeah, it would have been.
I wish that had been done.
Yeah. And as for the climax, I think it was handled, a little differently than I thought it would be. How they got the villains to stand down. But again, it really was foreshadowing the events of now with the villains being anti-heroes or getting redemption or being misunderstood. Where Artie talks to some of the villains like, okay, you want a happy ending, you have people see you as this, why are you really like this? And one said they like to garden, one wanted to open a bakery, one liked to sing, and they actually had layers to them because all you see is they're the antagonists of the book, and he got them to stand down without having to fight or kill any of them. And some people kind of see that as anticlimactic, but again, seeing now, every villain now is, oh, they're really a good guy, even when they're not really. So they really weren't, they really weren't doing anything that was like, oh, this is so stupid. Right. They were just really ahead and trying to give the little villains that don't have any screen time, trying to give them depth in this movie.
And last, I'd like to add on to that. To me, it's like they took a page out of Sailor Moon in Eternal Guardian.
Yeah.
Where the familiars got to take human form, and then one of them wanted to open the shop.
Yeah.
And they each had their things they wanted to do. I do believe at some point maybe they were inspired by that.
Maybe.
Because it's too similar, and you've never seen anything else but that Sailor Moon arc, I guess you could say, in that manga series. And that's what it reminds me of now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, they were all bad and they were villains, but each one of them had a dream they wanted to do in human form.
Right.
So we know that you've seen Shrek the Third. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Tell us why. Either way. If you haven't seen it, Shrek is everywhere. So you can easily find it to buy, to rent, and probably to stream on some service. Watch it and let us know what you think in the comments as well.
Right. And be sure to like, subscribe, and notification buttons on future podcasts and we'll pause videos.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace. And in the morning, I'm making waffles!